Hello. I realized this morning, I realized this morning that pretty much every video I make, I'm wearing the same shirt. I swear, first of all, that I do change my clothes once in a while. And second of all, that these weren't all recorded the same day. But you'll just have to take that on shirt value, I guess. You know, this is a little personal to me today. So I'm probably going to stutter a little. I always stutter. That's okay. I had a discussion at work with somebody I consider a friend who was vehemently pro-abortion. And I know not to really speak about being why not? Why can't I speak about being anti-abortion? Because I'm afraid? Yeah, I guess so. You guys just saw a realization in real time, or at least in real recorded time. I think it's silly, actually, that people who are against abortion get shamed for feeling that way. Like, I'm sorry. I don't agree with killing babies. I know that's weird and all in 2023, but I just can't get behind it. And here's why. My friend, she's a good person, but she is very brainwashed. And when I said, I don't support abortions, I think it's gross, she said, well, what about rape babies? And I said, you should do away with the rapist, not with the baby. And she walked away, ran away, very upset. She doesn't realize, though, that I have a little secret. I am one of those babies that she wants dead. The last 10 years have been really eye-opening as far as this topic is concerned. It's gone beyond the point of not wanting young girls to experience pregnancy. It's using their stories and their pain and their trauma as ammunition against every baby for any abortion by any cause. And I think that's sick and abhorrent. I think it is awful what happens, just as sick and abhorrent, what happens to women sometimes. But I'm also rational enough to look at facts and data and realize that that the procedures she's referring to are less than 1% of abortions. We are sacrificing babies. We are sacrificing children at an altar. And the atheist pro-abortion ones don't even realize that because they've been convinced to be atheist. It's sad and it's sick. I got told by a friend, essentially, that I really don't have a right to be alive. Imagine saying that to any other group. Yeah, your parents were drug addicts. You should have been dead. You should have been killed. They were traumatized by their experience, so they should have killed you. I don't think that's really the case. I don't think that a mother's life should be weighted more heavily than her offspring's. Quite the opposite. We see what people have done in the now, and we see that people have done generally nothing good. There's an old song called I Love to Change the World, but I Don't Know What to Do. So I leave it up to you. And who are we leaving it up to? We're killing all of the people that will care for us when we're old. We're just killing them and rejoicing over it. I'm not. But I see a lot of people who I otherwise would consider friends. I find it hard to be friends with them because that is such a schism in our I struggle to call it a belief system in our ethics and morals, I guess. I think that they're sick. I understand that there is a time and a place for everything. No, actually, let me go back on that. I really don't think there's a time and a place for killing babies. I think the phrase that I just used is used to excuse grievous evils. And I'm sorry for having just used it. I don't think there's a time and a place for everything. I think it's a tragedy when a mother is, or when a woman is assaulted and is traumatized by that. I think that's an absolute tragedy, one that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. However, being the product of that tragedy, I kind of have a little bit of insight, I guess. I'm very grateful that I wasn't killed, and being realistic about it, I don't think that if I was born, or if my birth mother was pregnant this year, I don't think I would have made it, simply because the social conditioning is so pervasive. You know what helps rapists? I hate using that term. You know what helps rapists get away with their crimes? Let's call it what it is. Destroying the evidence of that crime. All of you so-called feminists and so-called social justice warriors who are arguing to save the women who are victims of abuse, you don't realize that you are dismembering the one thing that can put their rapist in jail, in prison. Instead of taking out your pain and your anger on little ones, why don't you take your pain and your anger out on the judges that sentence these monsters to probation? My best friend growing up, AJ, he's deceased now, unfortunately. But he did make it through being born, which is, I'm grateful for that, and I'm sure he was too. My best friend the dad's still alive, is a really awful person. He assaulted his 11-year-old stepdaughter. And he was given 5 years probation. Let's put that in perspective for a moment. I was given a DUI for a bottle of medication that I had on me, which doesn't cause inebriation. I had just picked it up from the pharmacy, but because I had a broken foot at the time and couldn't complete the clown show that is the field sobriety tests, because I couldn't do that, they gave me a DUI, and I fought it and I won. But I know a lot of people that have done the same thing as me, not had the money to fight it, and they've been given 5 years probation for it, or 10 years, or they've had their lives destroyed by prison, by not being able to get to work anymore. Yet these men who assault women and little girls are allowed to roam free with just their picture online saying, hey, maybe you should stay away from this guy. But you know what? You don't find out about that picture unless you actually go out and look for it. The government is complicit in hiding these people, and yet you take it out on the babies? What's wrong with you? Seriously. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you that you can't think rationally enough to see the evil that you are supporting? And it's multifaceted evil too. It's not just the evil of destroying an innocent life, which is bad enough, but you're complicit in destroying 2 innocent lives and any other innocent life that comes after due to the lack of prosecution on these monsters. You will be found to have been on the wrong side of history. And you know what's really astounding to me is it's not men. It's not men who are pro-abortion generally. I've found most men, if they get a woman pregnant, will suck it up and deal with the consequences. If it's an unwanted pregnancy, quote unquote unwanted. You know what? There's one thing that I never see brought up in this argument. How about some responsibility, personal responsibility for the women and the men? On all sides, there should be personal responsibility. Everybody knows from an early age, intercourse makes children. That's generally what it does. If you are so vehemently opposed to getting pregnant to the point where you would rather kill a child, maybe sex just isn't right for you. Maybe the fact that you're willing to kill children just so you can get your rocks off, maybe that says a lot about you. Maybe you should take a look in the mirror before promoting the murder of innocent babies. I'm glad I wasn't murdered. I'm glad that as hard as my birth mom's life was, she had the foresight to realize that there were countless parents out there, or prospective adoptive parents, who would give their left arms to have a baby. And I'm grateful that she gave that gift to my parents, my mom and dad that raised me. I don't really have a lot more to say, but I think this world is sick, and I feel as though I don't belong here. Realizing how sick this world is was a real smack in the face, because I was willfully ignorant for a long time, and I wasn't a good person. But once I saw just who I was aligning myself with by my actions and my inactions, I realized that I had to get my shit together. There was no excuse. And I hope others can do the same, you know. We need to start looking at things rationally instead of emotionally. When you use an emotional point of view to decide a rational matter, everybody loses. In this situation, it's unfortunately the unborn children that lose out most. And you know what? It's the would-be mothers too. Do you think that goes without consequence? socially, emotionally, physically for them? It doesn't. You can argue all day that it's the answer to the trauma of being assaulted, but is it? Isn't it just covering up that trauma with further trauma? I don't understand. I don't think I will understand because I think there's nothing to understand. I'm late for work. Gotta go.